Yeah, we'll call tonight's Conservation Commission meeting to order. Good evening, everyone. My name is Chris Garahan. I'm the chairman of the Conservation Commission this year. The first item we have on tonight's agenda is under the open session citizen concerns. We have an item here, Daniel Calvo, park benches at Warren Paul. Is Daniel present? Anybody see Daniel? We'll table that one until a little later then.
Do we know if he wants them?
I know he posted something a while back about, on Facebook about wanting benches at Warren Pole, which we're totally amenable to doing at the right time, but I think we'd like to get the CR at least submitted before we do any of that kind of thing. But you know, we're amenable to it, so.
So I invited him tonight, so.
All right, well, maybe he'll come in a little late. We can take him when he gets here. It's okay.
He's a neighbor of mine, and he rides a bike, and he's a great musician.
Oh, wow.
All right,
Professional,
well,
yeah.
there you go. Good. All right, well, we definitely have Joel Luna here, present. I don't see Ruth, but Joel, welcome. And you're up on the item rezoning River Meadowbrook Wildlife Refuge.
Yeah, thank you. Joel Luna, 10 Carter Drive, and Ruth had wanted to be here, but she's suffering a recurrence of her post-concussion symptoms, so she's not doing too well right
We'll
now.
tell her we hope she's feeling better soon.
Thank you, I'll do that. I'll definitely do that. We were both going to be here, but I'm just here to follow up on rezoning the wildlife refuge area from IA, which is currently zoned. I want to give a little bit of background on this area. A large part of it is at least one wetland resource area, and in fact, a number of areas have more than one wetland resource area in it, so it's very rich in that sense. But our interest in it in particular is because it is also all mapped rare species habitat. And it is actually by far the largest rare species habitat in Chelmsford, is this area. I wanted to give a little bit of background as to how that came to be, in case for those of you who don't know. Back in 2002, Ruth and I, and also Linda Jones, started looking for rare species there. And in 2002, we found the first wood turtle, which was an adult male. And then subsequently, when a young subadult, small turtle, I think it was probably about a year old, was found, that was proof of reproduction. And it was at that point that Natural Heritage Endangered Species Program out of the Fisheries and Wildlife designated as habitat. We went on to radio track wood turtles, a population of up to more than 20 at one point. And then in the process of that, that was over a period of 4 to 5 years. We actually radio tracked them, so that means that when we found them, we attached our radio to them, and then we used a receiver to go out and identify where they were, which we did between April and June of the 4 to 5 years that we did it. We were out for about 4 hours each day. And then in June, we were out more than that because it's nesting time. And then after that, up until October, we were out about every other day for several hours. So there was a lot of time invested into it to identify it. That data we submitted to Natural Heritage as well. Part of uses of that data was to establish forestry guidelines with regards to turtle habitat. So also then, a few years after that, or exactly how long I don't remember, Ruth knows for sure, but that's when we caught and radio tracked a Blandings turtle. And the wood turtle habitat was largely in the wildlife refuge area. The Blandings turtle is what extended the habitat all the way down to Chelmsford Water District Watershed Lane in that area. So when you look at a map and you see the priority habitat, most of that habitat that is south of where River Neck Road crosses Turnpike is largely Blandings habitat. We also continued to track that turtle for a while, and they're wide-ranging turtles, which is a lot of work to then get in your car and drive down there to try to find him, and he was a pain. But therefore, this habitat was established both for wood turtle and also Blandings turtles as well. So what we noticed that because the area is still zoned IA, We felt that that was just really inconsistent with what that and the fact that it is a Concom property. We thought that was just very inconsistent. So we had appeared before to ask for the commission's, thoughts and recommendations or agreement or concurrence with our desire to go before the planning board and to ask for rezoning of this area to something other than probably either public or open space. And when Evan Belansky, the Community Development Director, saw this items on the agenda, he asked us about it, and he suggested that we also look at Concom lands in general to see what is the zoning of Concom lands across town. We thought that was a good idea, and I think that's something that we definitely would like to do as well. We think we should prioritize no pun intended, the priority habitat first, and to establish a sort of a track, if you will, for getting rezoning associated with that Concom land, and then follow up with the other Concom lands as well. So we are more than willing to do that. If the Concom wants to take lead on that, we're perfectly fine with that. We would like to support that. We're happy to take lead with it as well. Also, I've started some initial discussion with Chris LaValle, who is the liaison from the planning board as well, so that we can make sure that we're doing things the right way. So we appreciate that the care that Concom has had toward this area, and so we would like to have your feedback and your support in sort of moving forward with this. So with that, I'd like to just ask if there's anything that you want to ask me about it, and if not, what kind of, I don't know if you want to, whether you have any comments you want to make about it, and then other than that, way forward, whether we coordinate that with David specifically, or whether you want to issue a letter or whatever, I don't know. So any questions?
Thanks, Joe. First of all, I want to say thank you for you and your wife for the hard work and effort protecting these priority habitats. I mean, you guys are out there putting a lot of time into it, and we, on behalf of all the commissioners, thank you.
Thank you. I forgot to add that very recently, just within the past couple of weeks, the three of us went out again to relive the old days, and we actually found a 5-year-old subadult that was not found yet by Zoo New England. So we called them, and they came the next day and radioed it, so now they're tracking that one as well.
So we thank you for that, and I know personally, I certainly would support the efforts to rezone, but let's see what the commissioners have to say, and David, but maybe we can have a vote of support after we, David, what do you think?
Sure. I think it makes an awful lot of sense to do this. As I had suggested to Joel, that up in the River Meadowbrook Wildlife Refuge, it's sort of a patchwork of ownership, commission lands and water district properties. So I think the water district property should definitely be included in that area for rezoning, and I'm certainly happy to talk to them. I don't see why there would be a problem doing that, to get that whole area.
What would you rezone water district to?
Well, same thing, open space. I mean, it's still IA, just like.
Yeah, I'm not as familiar with the water district properties. I know at least a certain amount of the water district properties zone public, but I don't know.
You can
whether it all
rezone
is zone
existing
public.
private property?
The mapped habitat was drawn to not go onto private property. When you look at it, the only possible exception is 243, and I'm just not familiar enough with, don't recall well enough the zoning, whether that was the original lot, or whether when 243 came forward as an application, whether they grouped lots together. So, if you look at the priority habitat, you see it clearly follows property lines, so that it would not go onto private property. That's generally the way that they've done it. That's why, for example, it didn't incur onto anything at 199 or 201 River Neck or that sort of thing.
Joel, is all of the water district land up there also priority habitat? I think it probably is.
A certain amount of it is. I don't know if it all is. I'd have to check.
But even if
I'd have to double check that.
if it isn't all priority habitat, it could still be rezoned to open space. I think that would still make sense if they're agreeable, and I'm certainly happy to talk to them. I don't know why they wouldn't be, but
Yeah, good.
I would imagine what we zone it to I mean, I would just off the top of my head guess that it would be either a public or open space. And which of those it would be necessarily, I don't know. I imagine we would work that out with the planning board. But,
Good. More comments, questions from the commissioners? Phil?
I'm just kind of curious how we'll come up with the list of lots, because having played around in the GIS, looking at all the property that we own, it's not consistent that we are responsible for. That's a challenge.
Well, I think in the wildlife refuge, I think I
That's
have all of
pretty
those
straight.
properties.
Yeah, if we do it that way, that's, but there's probably hundreds of lots, or around 100 lots,
All over
parcels
town.
on town, yeah.
Oh, yeah, around town there.
yeah, I don't imagine we're going to get this done overnight, but we think it makes a lot of sense. That's why we wanted to segment off this particular one, because it's priority habitat and because it's a sort of a manageable chunk to take on.
Joel, I think the commission will be sympathetic to this, you know? As far as next steps, I mean, maybe I would work probably with, Evan and David and kind of work through maybe the next steps, but I think the commission's going to be sympathetic.
Why do you want to do it?
Because right now, if you looked at a map and you didn't see that there was, if you didn't look at a map that had the priority habitat designated, it's zoned IA. So anybody looking at the map would think it's IA.
Excuse me,
And-
is this piece of land is owned by the town? Is it under the Conservation Commission?
Yes, that's what Joel is proposing.
So nothing can be done on it without the commission's approval?
No, but it's still zoned IA.
So what?
Because someone looking at the map who doesn't know will think that it's
Well, that's their
developable
problem,
land
but
and
that's
it's
their
not.
problem.
I think it's better to have the zoning match the use as much as possible. And I think in this case, I think it would be a very prudent thing to do.
If it ain't
I agree.
broke, don't fix it.
I think it's, so I think that there is a benefit to having it zoned properly, because there's things you can do with GIS and other tools where you can, by using zoning areas, and maybe that we should come up with even a new zone.
Possibly.
For open space habitat or something like that.
Yeah.
That then when you go to do like show that for all of Chelmsford, you can see like a bio path and things like that. And that starts with having the data
Yeah.
clean right from the beginning, and right
Yeah.
now it's not clean.
And that's a very good idea too. But I mean, the other thing I would say is, I was on the ZBA long enough that zoning is a, particular thing with me. And so to not have it zoned correctly just it looks like we don't know what we're doing.
Joel, you didn't answer my question yet.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Why do you want to change the zoning from 1A to something else?
Because we don't want there to be an inconsistency between the zoning
Or
and
is
the
it because you
habitat map.
you think zone 1A, it could be developed, and you don't want it to be developed?
It's not so much that we think that it would be developed, but that we don't want to give the impression that it could be developed. It just creates an inconsistency
Don't want to give the
between,
impression. Okay. I'm not going to debate it tonight.
Anyway, well, Peter, you want to say
I
something?
mean, if I could just add, I mean, it's a great idea, and maybe a partial answer to Dave's question. I don't know if, Dave, you'll buy this, but I've been thinking the same thing that you and Carl mentioned, is the idea of looking at all of our lands, thinking a little bit about the zoning. But as we all know, it's more than just zoning. It's the critical habitat, it's the biodiversity going forward, it's the carbon sequestration value of our public land. It's all those good stuff that, today is sort of lurking out there with scientists that study it, but I think it's starting to hit us in form of, warmer temperatures and, all the climate stuff. So to me, it's the starting with this one makes a lot of sense to start the pattern of taking a harder look at some of these lands from the habitat point of view. And secondly, I've been really intrigued by the state's work on what they call the biomap, and a number of us are familiar with that. But to me, that's the starting point if we wanted to talk about changing the zoning on some of the other open spaces. The patchwork is great. I bet you if you had a wildlife biologist look at the patchwork, he'd tell you in terms of biological diversity, I bet you it's more connected than we think it is. So that's a whole other project down the road, but to me, part of it is the zoning. So I
I
support it
think
for
Joel
that
knows that
reason.
from chasing the turtle down the.
Yeah, actually, this population was a bit of a surprise to natural heritage because most of the large wood turtle populations were in western Massachusetts. So to actually have this one pop up in eastern Massachusetts was, for them, it's a more significant population for that reason. It's
Yeah.
another one in
It's not unique to Chelmsford.
What is not unique
The
to
wood
Chelmsford?
turtle population is not unique to
No, we
Chelmsford.
don't have the only wood turtle population, no,
No.
but this is certainly the largest habitat in Chelmsford.
Anybody else? Comments, feedback?
Oh, good.
No, I'm good. Thanks, Joe, for coming
Okay.
in. Keep
Thank
us
you very
informed.
much.
So what's the next step?
Well, I think that's kind of to be determined. I think that Joel's got to follow up with David and Belansky, but I mean, zoning's not really our purview, right, Dave? So I think they've,
Yeah, I think
no.
ultimately it would be a
Yeah.
matter of the commission submitting a letter.
I think getting the water department on board is
Yeah.
very important.
yeah. But I mean, if there's a letter of support, we could put a letter to support and vote it, for it. I'd vote for it certainly, but I'm not sure everybody in the commission would vote in favor, but we certainly could take a vote on it and take some action when needed, but I don't know, I don't think there's any action tonight that we have to take.
No.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks, Joel.
Thanks, Joe.
All right, regulatory hearings. Moving on to our regulatory phase of the meeting. First one up is request for determination of applicability. This is an after-the-fact filing, Chelmsford Lumber Company, Inc., 203 Boston Road. Bob McNamara, property owner, representing the applicant. David, anything you want to add right now? Do we have a legal notice or anything? Are we at that phase?
We do,
Let's
Mr.
get a
Chair.
legal notice then in.
Pursuant to the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act, MGL 131, Section 40, and the Chelmsford Wetlands Bylaw, Chapter 187, the Chelmsford Conservation Commission will conduct a public hearing in room 204 at the Chelmsford Town Offices, 50 Billerica Road, on Tuesday, April 25th, 2023, at 7 p.m., to consider the request for determination of applicability filed after the fact by Chelmsford Lumber Company, Inc., on behalf of property owner Chelmsford McNamara LLC for proposed work within 100-foot buffer zone to bordering vegetated wetlands at 203 Boston Road, further identified as Assessor's Map 12, Block 425, Lot 2. The project entails removal of brush, pool deck, dilapidated shed, and damaged chain link fence, followed by regrading, loaming, and seeding disturbed areas, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Carl. And do we have the applicant present here to give us an overview?
Chris Haas from Chelmsford Lumber is here.
Good.
Hi, Chris.
Hello.
Hello?
Hi.
Hello.
You hear us out there, Chris, okay?
Yep, no problem.
Good, yeah, Chris, just give us an overview, if you could, to the commission.
Manager.
Sorry, say that again?
Can you just give us a little bit of overview of,
Yeah.
of your plans?
Yep. Yeah, so basically, as it was stated in the email that I sent, we took down, after we purchased the property, we took down, there was a dilapidated shed, cleaned up, but there was some old brush piles left from the homeowner before, chain link fence. There was a pretty good drop off where the chain link fence was. That was all bent up. And then we ended up bringing the grade, make it a little bit more equal and level, and then reseeded it, planted it, and that's basically it. No more plans to do anything in that area. So I guess that's really about it.
Oh, good, thanks, Chris, for the overview of the work that was involved. Let's just see if the commissioners have any questions or comments. Maybe start down here with John, down this side of the table. Anything, John?
From what I've seen over there, they've cleaned it up tremendously,
Good?
okay? They went in there, cleaned it up, maybe not knowing that they should have came here first,
Okay.
okay? But they've done a nice job cleaning it up.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thanks for shutting that door back there. Be good. And thanks for your comments, John.
Nope, that's,
Good. All right, good. Peter?
I'm sorry, you can't close the door. That's a violation of the open meeting law.
Okay. If you could just kind of like,
Put the doorstop in it.
a little,
I'll ask him the question.
yeah, that would be good. That'd be good.
Read them the right act.
Yeah. Let's see, over to Peter.
Yeah. David or Chris, can you, we're looking at the map of the wetland area. Are those little structures, the sheds that were removed? Do you know, David or Chris?
Yes. Those sheds were removed. I gather there was a lot of junk and trash and debris
Yeah.
that was down in that area as well. I didn't see it.
Yeah, that is correct.
I mean, this is an after the fact filing, but
Yeah, and then, David, did you go out and look at it?
yeah, I've been out there a
Yeah.
couple times.
Is the grading, I had a very specific question on the grading, like how much was filled and does it matter from the wetlands point of view?
It looks like it was, maybe there was a little bit, I mean, Chris, maybe you could answer that. It looks like it's basically the existing grade, the pre-existing grade, but maybe Chris, you could talk about that.
Okay.
Yeah, we basically just, it wasn't a drastic change. I guess there was just a little bit more of a drop off. So we pulled some of the material from the high spot into that lower spot.
Yeah, so Chris, just full disclosure, I am a customer. But, I've seen this before in the past. How far from the pavement of the existing Chelmsford lumber site, how far from that pavement into the new property did you go? Like about as far as the sheds that are on this map we're looking at, or was it the whole backyard?
Oh, I would say it was about as far as the sheds.
That's about 15 feet.
Yeah, that's about what I recall last summer.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
All right,
Yep.
good. Peter, on to David then.
Is all the work done, or is there more work to be done?
No, so all the work is finished. Now it's really just maintaining with mowing equipment.
Are you aware what the conservation regulations are now?
Yeah, that we shouldn't be in that area. So yes.
That's all I had.
Hey, thanks, David. Yeah, Bill?
Did you have a plot plan done, Chris, of that site? And was there any wetlands, was anything checked to see where the wetlands were? Was it flagged? Do you know?
I believe, I would have to check. I believe there was a plot plan done.
Yeah, because I thought when a while back, that we requested a plot plan be done showing where the wetlands were and if there was any infringement on the wetlands as far as filling in it. Am I
Yeah.
remembering that right?
I would have to check on that. I
Yeah,
believe there wasn't.
Yeah, I thought we were gonna see a plot plan. That's it, Chris.
All right, thanks. Mark?
Yeah, I think there should be a plot plan existing for now. I'd like to see one before we close this.
Okay. Carl?
I'm with them, yeah.
Okay, good. David?
Okay, so, this is my recommendation to the commission, is I think the work that's the subject of the RDA was done well, and they actually did a really good job cleaning up the property, grading and loaming and seeding. However, that there's a real serious problem with runoff from the paved area here. Sort of hard to see, but this area, I think it's,
Between the buildings?
yeah, I don't think it's a parking area per se, but it's used for
You mean the driveway?
loading and
Lumber
unloading.
storage.
Yeah.
And delivery.
So, and I mentioned to Chris a couple of times, is that there is a real serious problem. There's been a lot of erosion up in this area near the edge of pavement. There's been sedimentation down, at least well into the buffer zone, maybe it's a little bit into the wetlands. So I think my recommendation of the commission is that I think that the RDA can be a negative determination. However, I think a condition should be that a notice of intent needs to be filed for the stormwater management. And I've mentioned to Chris that means hiring an engineer, getting the wetlands delineated, shown on a plan, hiring an engineer to design a stormwater management system.
Would this work be on both properties or just the lumberyard?
Yeah, I think it would
property?
probably be both.
Both properties.
Yes.
Are
yes.
both properties owned by the same person?
Yes, yes.
Yes.
So I think that's the route that should be taken in this case.
Okay, well, thanks for the recommendation, David.
And I would certainly encourage the commission members to do a site visit, and you can see firsthand that there's a serious problem out there.
Mark, do you agree with that observation about the property erosion going forward?
I do. A lot of it has to do with that steel building, that stormwater comes out that building, and it just goes right towards the wetlands.
Yep,
What's that, the second
Nothing to
building?
catch
Is that
any of the
the-
water off the building.
that's right.
Is that the bigger of the two buildings, Mark?
That's the steel building, yeah, it's a very big building, in fact.
I mean, on that map, is that the big one in the lower left? or
It's
is
the
it-
one, the very lower left,
Yeah,
yes.
okay.
So
Yeah.
it's off the building and off of the parking lot, both.
This is a public hearing, so this could be a moment for anybody from the public to ask any questions or comments for us. Public hearing? All right, none? Okay, all right, so back to the commissioners. So we got a couple options. We could continue for a period of time to come back and get a plot plan, take a site walk or not, or we could take a vote. I think David's recommendation is that we take a vote, a negative determination with the condition that there be a follow-up filing of an NOI.
Right. And then the wetlands will be delineated.
And then you'd
shown
have
on a
your
plan.
delineation, and you'd have your professional engineer involved, and that type of thing. So we could, that option, we'd take a vote to close the hearing, and then take a vote after it on the RDA. So, kind of up to the commission, I think, to make a motion then at this point.
So you want to close the after-the-fact hearing and?
Yeah, we could close the after-effect hearing and then take a vote on the RDA. Unless we want to continue it to another meeting.
Well,
Quite a bit of work to do there, isn't
We're
there?
gonna, the proposal is to issue an RDA with a -3
For the work
for
that
the
was
work
done.
that's been done.
The after the fact.
But then to direct the applicant to file a notice of intent to
Right.
handle the stormwater runoff from Chelmsford lumber,
Include that as a condition
as a condition.
of
I
approval.
think that makes a lot of sense.
That's
So we'll see him again under an NOI hearing.
Right.
I like
All right, so we have a motion then to close the hearing.
So moved.
All right, Mark on the motion to close the hearing, Peter on the second, any discussion? All those in favor to close the hearing?
Aye.
Any opposed, unanimous. Okay, so the hearing's closed, and now it's time to have a motion. If we can have a motion really to the effect of David's recommendation.
So moved.
So I would.
That David, or this David.
Yeah.
David, the agent
that David.
Coombs.
Mr. Kuntz.
So I would just add one more thing to that, as I would recommend putting a date certain in there by when the notice of
Yeah,
intent will be
good point.
filed. So
Good idea.
I would say maybe June 15th.
Month and a half-ish, 2 months, yeah.
Yeah, that should be enough time. So I know Chris Bob has mentioned to me that he works with GPR.
Yeah, that's correct, and I spoke to him today.
Okay.
He's going to be in contact with them tomorrow to get this
Okay.
going. We'll definitely get it going right away.
So we're looking at a vote on the negative RDA, approve that work, but then we'd have the conditions of a NOI to be filed by, what did I hear, June 15th?
June 15th, yeah.
And we'll take it from there. So did I hear a motion by Carl then to that
Yeah,
effect?
So moved, yeah.
And do we have a second again by Peter? Any discussion before we vote? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous. Well, thank you very much, everyone, and Chris, I'm sure you'll be back really soon.
All right, you guys have a good night.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you very much. The next item we have on tonight's agenda under regulatory hearings is a notice of intent for Lighthouse School, 25 Wellman Avenue. David Cowell of Hancock Associates is representing the applicant, and we will have a legal notice first to be read into the record, and then we'll have a presentation from the applicant's professional engineering staff.
Mr. Chair, pursuant to the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act, MGL 131, Section 40, and the Chelmsford Wetlands Bylaw, Chapter 187, the Chelmsford Conservation Commission will conduct a public hearing in room 204 at the Chelmsford Town Offices, 50 Billerica Road, on Tuesday, April 25th, 2023, at 7:05 PM to consider the notice of intent filed by property owner Lighthouse School for proposed work within bordering land subject to flooding and 100-foot buffer zone to bordering vegetated wetlands at 25 Walman Avenue, further identified as Assessor's Map 9, Block 6, Lot 1. The project entails construction of a new building, a new school building, and associated parking.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Quirk. And now, Mr. Cowell.
Hi. For the record, my ears are ringing. For the record, my name is David Cowell. I'm a senior wetland scientist with Hancock Associates on behalf of the applicant. With me tonight, I have Morgan Steele. He's a project engineer, and I have Brian Goudreau. He's a senior civil engineer on the project management. We had filed a notice of intent and request to build a new building and associated parking at the Lighthouse School. The resource areas involved, it's primarily bordering land subject to flooding, which is primarily engineering. It's volumetric in calculation. There's very little work that's in your conventional sys. There's what's itemized here on the screen is there's an off-property bordering vegetated wetland that broadcasts associated buffers and setback zones onto the project. This is very small in scale, and the work that we're proposing to do in here, there's no expansion there, as I understand. It's all existing footprint of them repaving it, resurfacing it with the new construction. There's a very small area that is in the, what is your setback zone? Do you have, is it 50 or?
50-foot no build,
50 no
30-foot no impervious, and 25-foot no
Hey,
touch.
Chris, shouldn't he be on the microphone? Behind the
Oh,
podium?
should I be on the
Yeah,
microphone?
so people can hear you.
Oh, right, I don't know if Zoom can hear me.
It does a pretty good job, Bill, as long as you're within 3 or 4 feet, I've been told
Okay.
it does a pretty
I'm
good
pretty
job
loud, I'm
picking it
told
up.
I have an Irish whiskey.
But,
I just wanted everybody to hear you.
All right, yeah.
I've been told that if you're within a couple of feet of that microphone, you're okay.
Okay.
All right,
All
no
right.
worries.
Well, just kind of, don't go too far.
I'll stick around the
And
mic.
keep it loud if you could.
No worries. So the bordering vegetation, that's very small in scale. It's a very small surface area in the 50-foot no build that is existing footprint of paved parking lots that they're just repaving and resurfacing. The bulk of the work is in bordering land subject to flooding, which is that's volumetric by the standards. The standards are that you need to compensate volumetrically for every cubic foot of fill that you do. You need to compensate 1-to-1, and it needs to be at incremental grades at each grade that you fill. I understand that this went to peer review by, was it CEI, and they came back with a comment letter that largely agreed with the calculations that our engineering team did. But as I understand it, what was the request? Was there, asking for just, was it a figure, a cut and fill figure that helped articulate it?
Yes.
Okay, so that's pending. Yeah. That's what we need to do. So we anticipate that the hearing will continue to afford us an opportunity to do that. But at this time, we're here to answer any questions that the commission may have for us, if you guys have anything.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Cowell, for that overview presentation. We're going to be, definitely continuing this to another date, and we've got the peer review in process. But let's see if we can just take a few preliminary questions, perhaps, tonight, and also, and then we'll certainly be continuing on for further meetings. But maybe we can start actually from this end of the table, down at Carl.
Just at a high level, there's an existing building, and this is a new building
Yes.
adjacent to it with a parking area, and it's further past, I had trouble looking at
Oh, very, yeah.
Here's what's proposed
the
for the
locust.
building.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, sure.
Yeah, so the existing building is right here,
Okay.
and this is all parking lot right now. And the new building is essentially dropped onto the parking lot, and then we're expanding a loop road down towards the fields for fire access, and there's actually gonna be some parking underneath the building.
When you say the
and then
fields,
back up.
do you mean the Southwell fields or the lighthouse?
The lighthouse fields.
And the other thing is, so you already have a peer review? There was one done?
Yes.
Okay, so
yes.
we haven't seen that, or?
No, not yet. They, actually, the peer reviewer has submitted initial comments that said that the performance standards are being complied with, just asked for some revisions to the plans.
Yeah, and just to provide a little more detail, essentially what CEI asked for was a color-coded cut fill exhibit to clearly show the areas by elevation that are cutting and the areas by elevation that we're filling. And then just to detail that a little bit more narratively.
Was this your peer reviewer?
No.
No.
No, this is the
Towns.
commission's peer review.
We didn't take a vote to hire a peer review,
No,
did we?
no, but
Okay. I would have, but we didn't.
So I'm all set.
Thanks, Carl.
Is
Very good.
that some of the things we want to give to David? Is that why they went ahead and did you suggest this?
yeah, I went ahead and hired the peer reviewer.
Oh,
Or
okay.
I had the
Right.
town hire the peer
Is
reviewer. One other thing I'll add is the DP, so that was, the outside consultant is just reviewing the the performance standards for bordering land subject to flooding, in other words, the floodplain. DPW is still in the process of reviewing stormwater. So I know they have gotten, you have responded to their comments with revised plans that they're still.
Correct. So a little background, we're before the planning board right now, we're obviously before this commission, we'll be before the ZBA. As part of the planning board process, DPW and engineering is fully reviewing our stormwater grading, drainage. They've issued initial comments, we responded to that. We continue tomorrow night's public hearing with the planning board. We will be back before the planning board on the 10th, and we anticipate having a clean comment letter, if you will, or all outstanding comments with DPW resolved by the 10th.
That's good to kind of have that background information. It's good. Mark, back to you.
How much is going to change from impervious to pervious, or vice versa? Or what does it change in that?
So there is, one of the unique features about the stormwater management design is we're proposing porous pavement for the majority of any new asphalt out here. So as you look at the site plan with the loop road going behind the building, and then there's a small satellite lot, those are all porous pavement. So depending on what your definition of impervious is, we're probably at or slightly under what what's out there today, because the building is on top of the existing parking lot. We're introducing green space in between the existing building and the proposed building as kind of a play area, and then porous pavement for the balance of the site.
Which, do you recall which sheet shows that the best?
Probably
Right.
sheet 3 would be the overall sheet.
The hashed area is all your impervious, right?
I'm sorry?
The hashed area is all going to be,
Porous pavement.
yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yep. Yeah, so this is the satellite lot, that's the loop around the back of the building, so all of that's porous. The edge of the existing parking area is where my pen is. The edge of the building is slightly beyond that, and then we're introducing green space in between the two buildings, and then shrinking what is currently paved to small lots on either end.
I think it's what you call low-impact development.
Okay, Mark, any more questions? Good. Bill?
So the peer review is going to look at all the questions from stormwater, from DPW?
A DPW is peer reviewing the stormwater. The outside consultant, the outside peer reviewer is just doing the floodplain.
So then they're not going to look at the stormwater?
No.
So if we have questions that aren't covered by either of those, how are they gonna get answered?
Well,
Go ahead, Bill.
I mean, another peer reviewer could be hired, but.
No.
but
Extend the one that we.
No.
Why wouldn't they review that also?
Yeah.
Well, this is actually pretty simple and straightforward with regard to stormwater, and DPW had started looking at it very early on. So to me, it didn't seem to make much sense to suddenly change, to a new peer reviewer from DPW.
Okay, that's it.
Thanks, Bill. Dave?
Why is the new building separate from the old building?
So, I don't have the exact nuance of it, but it's my understanding that specific grades are being put in the new building. So.
Educational grades, not landscape grades.
Correct. Education, so children, different age groups of children.
But if, and I think there may be other reasons, if the building had been attached to the existing building, wouldn't you be further out, away from the floodplain area?
Potentially, yes. We'd still have to deal with the parking, so we'd.
Right. The second quote, where is the compensatory floodplain proposed?
So compensatory storage is proposed near the existing basketball courts.
Can you
So
can
which
you
sheet
show it?
is that?
If you could scroll down a little bit.
What?
Like over in
Oh,
this
it's
area
on this
here.
sheet?
Okay.
So there's existing basketball courts here and here. There's an existing stormwater basin kind of right adjacent to the parking area. As it slopes down to the lower level, this entire area is being regraded to provide compensatory storage. So we're placing the building beyond the slope into the field where we're filling, and right over here, we're going to be cutting to provide the volume.
And your
that's required.
calculations are creating more compensatory flood storage, correct?
Generally, we're trying to
Was
hit the
some
same
reference
metric.
to storage being underneath the building? Did I read that wrong?
So the lower elevation of the building is an open-air parking garage.
The lower elevation of the new building?
Of the new building, correct. So as you
The
drive
lower
around.
elevation being the first floor, or is there gonna be a sub-basement of
Nope.
this?
So the first floor, as you're referring it to, is at the field elevation, and that's strictly for parking, and it's gonna be open air.
So
if
the
it
first
floods.
floor is gonna be parking.
Yes,
Classrooms are above it.
correct,
So if there's a flood, it will go into that first floor.
exactly.
Okay, thank you. Is there any parking on this pervious area at all, or is it all under, is the incremental parking gonna be under the building?
So there is parking on the porous, in the satellite lot, and then also adjacent to the building.
I noticed on the plan some areas for snow storage removal. Can you show us on this plan where that will be?
So Dave, if we could scroll over to this area.
On the same sheet?
Yeah, same sheet's fine. So snow storage for the satellite lot will be directly adjacent.
That's
to it.
out in the fields off of, your fields, right?
Exactly. And then, actually, I apologize. Can you go to the other sheet, the sheet before?
Sheet 5?
Yeah.
That's all right, but there's no storage on the
No,
the
so
new development area.
This is the edge of the pavement. We've specifically set the guardrail back from the pavement to allow for snow storage, and then worst case scenario, you're going up and over the guardrail. So there will be no snow storage on the porous pavement.
Two last questions. How many years have you been there?
How many years has Lighthouse been there?
Lighthouse been
School
there?
been there.
94, I want to say. It was 90s.
Really, that long
So
ago?
that's-
Wow.
25 years, almost 30 years. How many times has the site flooded?
So we just had this conversation at the planning board, and twice is what we
Two
were told.
times?
Twice.
And what was the extent of the flooding?
The flooding went essentially up to that slope of the parking. So the forest paved
So,
area and the building.
If the
would be
flooding
within
had
it.
occurred after this new proposal
Mhm.
is in, would it have gone to the new building?
It would have gone into the
Or
garage
it would have gone
as
to that
designed. Yep.
first floor? Okay, that's all I had.
Thanks,
So-
Dave.
So this is the 100-year floodplain right here. So the last flood exceeded?
No,
100?
that's not. So the flood line that you're showing is a little ways up the slope. So the existing parking is here, the toe of the slope is like down here, and it flooded up a couple of feet.
Okay. But this is the 100-year flood
Correct.
zone elevation, okay.
Dave, any more questions?
No, just, Lighthouse has been a good tenant of Chelmsford, and I'm glad you guys are expanding. If they're here tonight, I'm glad you guys are expanding.
Yeah, it's a good comment, Dave. Lighthouse has got a great reputation out there in the education community, I can tell you that. Moving on to Peter.
I have some questions on trees and shrubs. Are you the right team to?
Sure try.
So I haven't dissected the plans, but there's quite a few trees to be removed, and there's quite a few trees and shrubs to be planted. Do you guys have any sort of overall number of, like, how many trees roughly are gonna be removed versus replaced? I guess I can count them up.
No,
your drawing.
not offhand. And what we've included in the plan set is a schematic landscape plan that shows, generally speaking, where areas are earmarked for landscaping, where shade trees would go,
Right.
things like that.
You want to see that plan?
Oh, yeah, is it, do we have it? I just
It's
don't.
in there, yeah.
Yeah,
What number?
7, 8.
87.
Well, I'm on 7, yeah. Okay, and then I had another question, but, David Coons, maybe it's for the commission as well as for you guys. The plans say that the type of trees and shrubs will be determined at a later date or upon building permit. Is that normally how we do it?
No, we like to have more input than that.
Yeah, like what kind of plants?
Exactly. We like to have, typically a
Planting
larger
plan.
project, we want to have some more input.
Yeah, so I don't want to go off the reservation, but I'd be interested in a little bit more detail. I think the commission has some interest in natural or native type plants and trees,
What we
to the
could
extent
do,
one can do that.
yeah, what we could do is we could give you kind of a list of native species, kind of a palette, if you will, that would be selected when they're going to be installed.
I
Yeah, and I
thought
think
the
the
planning
crit-
board generally required the proposed species. Did they mention that?
No.
Usually it's a planning board.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean we
Well,
can't say what we want.
We like to see that in a larger
Right,
project.
I'm just
too.
saying, usually the planning board, then it comes to us, and we
Yeah.
usually, it's there
Yeah.
to see.
And the nice thing about a school project is there's huge benefits to your customers or students
So,
to keep the playground cool.
so
And I was also, thinking of the fact that this is somewhat next to one of our conservation lands
So-
and by the river.
so would you like to see them come back at the next meeting with a proposed species list?
I would if we can do that.
Okay, sure.
We absolutely, yeah, we ask for that all the time, Peter.
Yeah, great, thank you,
We can vouch for that.
thank you. Thank you.
Good. John, what do you got?
Dave asked the questions, snow storage,
Yeah,
it seemed pretty adequate, the way they had it set up.
yeah.
Uh,
Good.
No, I'm fine.
Okay. Back to Dave.
Well, you got questions?
No, I'm good for the
Is
moment.
there a representative of the school here?
No. There we go.
I'm one of the
Okay.
managers at Lighthouse.
Years ago, you guys talked a little bit with us about putting a garden in place for the students to use.
Yeah.
That never happened. I think you got sidetracked with some bigger issues. Are there any plans for making an area where the kids that are capable can in fact work in a garden?
Sir, if you could just come right up to the podium, the mic, it'd be
Or
good.
is
We
that
like to,
not, or is that not part of your master
we
plan?
like to catch that.
It's
for the
not a
record.
requirement, it's just
No,
point of
no, I
information.
think I have an answer. My name is Jim Dalton. I'm also a resident in town. I've been at Lighthouse for 35 years. I've lived in town for 25. We would love to do a garden. I think I can honestly say that. And to incorporate it a little bit more into some of our experiential learning.
Yeah.
We've done a couple of small plots, but we haven't done it in a bigger way like.
Well, I have no idea what size. I was just asking where it was in your planning, okay?
Yeah.
Because
You
I
know-
think it's a good idea if you can.
Yeah, we started to do more with experiential learning, and we're starting to do more outdoor experiential learning, so this fits well with kind of what we've been
Do
looking
you
at.
have
in the
enough
past.
land to do it?
We have 37 acres. You probably know more about it than I do, but I think it's okay to do, yeah. And it was farmland at one stage, I believe,
Oh, yeah.
right? Going back in time.
That's all I have, Chris.
Great, well, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Okay, good. So, Commissioners, David?
No, I don't have anything to add at the moment.
Okay, good. Public hearing, anybody from the public, anything that they might want to, yes, sir. If you can just come right up to the mic and give us your name, address, and ask your question or comment.
Sure, Steve Kelly, been a resident of town 28 years of the Wright Malman Avenue, right next to this location. I was reviewing the plans. They seem fine to me. I just had a question on the drainage. As you mentioned, it's in a floodplain. It did flood in '06 and '07 there, but that was due to the dam down below, the bladder dam. It came in through the Southwell field, came up through the field at the Lighthouse School, broke through to Williamsburg and flooded that whole area 2 years in a row. But Morgan, I think your name is? Morgan O'Brien.
Yep.
He was right. I mean, the school is elevated up there, and it did not get up as high as the school. I've been there before the school was built, so, and I was familiar with the area. I walked through that area probably once or twice a week to see the school. I guess my question was just, with this new school, by the specs and by what you said, that basin on the side is going to be able to catch all the runoff from this. It's not going to be going out to the field, that big field. There's already a wetland out there that was dug out years ago to form that wetland. So that I just didn't want to ask that question if it's not going to drain out there, but on the plans it looks like it's going to be in that basin still. So, okay. That's all I had. It looks like a great plan, good school, but we were just concerned about where that extra runoff is going to go for this
Well, that's
project.
a good question, good concern.
yeah.
We're going to be getting some further, between us and the planning board, we're going to be getting more information around the drainage
Yeah.
calculations, but certainly the goal is to have no adverse effect upon anything generated by this project.
Yep.
You know?
The plans look good.
Good. Good. Thanks for the comment. So we're here today, public hearing. Could we have a motion from the commission then to continue this to our next public meeting would be, it looks like May 9th? May 9th, so we have a motion to continue to May 9th.
I move we continue to May 9th.
All right, motion by Peter, do we have a second on that? John, on the second. All those in favor, aye? Any opposed? Unanimous. So, May 9th.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
We'll see you again.
Thank
See
you.
you then.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a comment that this submission by the Lighthouse School included, to me at least, a hard copy of the stormwater management plan, which I found we don't normally get. We often rely on the agent to have read it and comment on it. I found it extremely useful, and I would like to encourage that, unless it's too voluminous, to next time it also be included with the plans.
Yeah, good comment, Dave.
Yeah, should I mention something about the meeting we had? Dave, a couple of us met, last week, David, with DPW and had a kind of an intro chat about stormwater, but that was one of the takeaways, is to try to share information a little more aggressively. I don't know if that's why you saw it this time, probably not, but I think there's widespread understanding of your comment, Dave, having a lot of value.
I know, I'm kind of old school about it, honestly. I mean, the papers, and especially with the way my eyesight is these days, it's easier to have something like this. Good, okay. So we have some determination of applicability paperwork going down for signature here.
That was from the first.
That was from our first hearing.
And I'm also going to pass around another one that I neglected to pass around last week, which this is for the Pine Hill Road
Okay,
catch basin.
very good.
Oh, right, for DPW.
All right, so that takes us through our regulatory hearings for the evening's agenda. We're now moving into the discussion phase of the meeting. The first item under discussion is a letter of support for low-impact development guidelines, the MVP grant application. This is something that Peter, our member Peter, brought to us at our last meeting. He gave us a kind of an overview of it, and I think, so we didn't take a vote last time?
We did vote to support it last time.
Okay, is there anything additional we need to do tonight, or?
Yeah, David Coons, who's written a zillion of these
Yes,
letters,
sir.
added your touch to the letter, thank you.
Well, I hope it was
Appreciate that.
okay, everything I...
And I noticed a small typo, which is on me, which I fixed. Then I printed out a new letter for signature and left it on my printer at home, so.
Well, I was actually going to make a couple more tweaks,
Want to make some more tweaks?
but I have the signature page here.
Can we do it that way? Thanks.
Yeah, so that's one advantage of having the signatures on a separate page.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, yes, Chris, if you could
Yeah,
sign
you
it.
might have noticed the same thing then.
Yes.
The FY, it's FY,
Yes.
it's not,
It should be 24, right? Not
thank you.
23.
2024, yeah.
So I'll fix that.
Okay, very good.
The
Okay.
only other thing do we really have urban heat island effects here in Chelmsford?
I imagine we do, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely,
Have what, Carl?
Urban heat island.
absolutely.
Heat Island?
Okay.
Yeah.
Not like Boston.
Yeah,
No, it's
that-
not, yeah.
There's
not
probably
like a real
neighborhoods
city,
and
but
places we might.
downtown.
Yeah, in fact,
There's a lot
using,
of pavement, yeah.
Yeah.
except using GIS to pinpoint a couple of hot spots in town is in the current scope, which is being finalized this week and next, to try to give us some guidelines as to where the bang for the buck is. Although, David, you and I have talked about this, and you've already picked out a few spots in town that seem obvious if the town wanted to do something.
Say no more. Thank you.
I guess I have no problem with this letter going. I do have a problem with the way it's written in, what I would consider typical Chelmsford bureaucratese. That's a word. What's the town's priority population that's referred to in this letter? Is that me, or is that somebody else?
Yeah, that's a great question. Let me try to respond quickly. A lot of the new state and federal legislation and the grants talk about environmental justice and priority populations. And what ends up in the newspaper all the time is environmental justice regions, of which Chelmsford does have some areas on the state map for what are referred to as environmental justice areas. So you see those words a lot, Dave, because that's what the people evaluating these proposals favor, if you will, because of the way the legislation was written.
So it
at
has,
both the state and the federal
but it has
level.
nothing to do with what we're really gonna do.
Well, it does.
Well, I guess to Dave's question, which I
Well,
think is a
it's part
good
of-
one.
it's part
What
of
does
it.
that mean in kind of like plain English?
Yeah,
It means that certain
but
part.
for us in this project.
Exactly. That's a good, Dave's got a very good point. What does that actually mean?
Yeah, it means that we're going to include the areas of Chelmsford that are labeled as environmental justice regions by the state.
Okay.
There's 3 or 4 little pockets here and there.
Pockets, do we know those? Are
Yeah,
they
it's
like
kinda it's kinda like
wetlands or-
East Chelmsford over by
Oh,
the
geez.
Glenville landfill.
That's like me saying Drake it.
Yeah. What's that? What did I say?
No, you came in late, that's all.
I got your Drake it comment.
Oh, okay.
And I recorded it for the add to the TV broadcast.
And
Well, what it means is okay, so
So it's like, is it populations of people, or is it more like related to the wetland species and
no,
vegetation
it's totally
stuff?
people.
So it's people, right? Okay.
Yeah, and this is a deeper subject, we don't want to get into it, but when both the federal and the state legislation was written,
Okay.
the politicians and the technical people said, hey, if we're gonna spend all this dough on climate stuff, okay, here's a great opportunity to address an issue known as environmental justice, which means in general, poor people, people of color, in general, you can map, it's been mapped many times, tend to live in parts of our country that have
Environmental
higher
problems, sure.
environmental problems,
Yeah.
let's just leave it at that.
Okay.
Which translates to more health problems, more asthma,
Yeah.
more cancer, more whatever, although the data's kind of hinky, it's a little
Well,
hard to
I-
nail it down. So that's what this is all about,
Okay.
is trying to
Bullshit.
make sure those people are not left out. That's
One
really
other-
that's really the answer to your
one
question.
other question, Dave, one other question I might, Dave, for you. There's a paragraph, sentence in here that says, town staff will be involved in providing input on specific design standards and maintenance needs and their integration into the commission's review of proposed site plans during the permitting process.
Yeah.
Who is the town staff? Is that you?
Well, that would include me.
And how much more work are we gonna, is this project gonna put on you?
Well, I think it would be, and correct me, Peter, if I'm wrong, I think that the review would be in the context of already having this manual. There's
Right.
this manual would already have been developed,
Right.
which
So you don't
provides.
see this putting an additional significant burden of time and effort on your part?
No, no,
Because you got a
no.
lot of other stuff you're doing for us, too.
Right, right, no, I see it mainly as referring to the manual.
Okay.
Yeah, there-
I just want to mention a small example, though, going back to the environmental justice and priority populations, that I think, I would think that, in development of this manual, there would be some public outreach involved.
yes.
And it so happens that in my hometown of Boxborough, give an example, that we are also working on the update to the open space and recreation plan. And we just did our public outreach component of that. And we have environmental justice populations town. So the town paid for having a couple of translators there at the public outreach session. One I think was for Spanish, the other I think was for Hindi. And that's the kind of thing that think the state likes to see the towns doing in that regard.
Sure. Okay, good.
Yeah, yeah. And Dave, I gave you kind of a deer in the headlight look, because there is some pieces of this scope that are going to be nailed down upon a project award, some of the details that you're asking. And so that's one thing to keep in mind. This thing, when we win it, it'll be 6 months from now, there'll be some planning meetings. And then, to your point on David's time, I'm pretty sensitive to that because of all our regulatory and land management work. There's a number we're floating around, and it's 200 labor hours total of town staff time is what the current estimate is for a 10-month study. And we've got a lot of people signed on to contribute to this thing, the Tree Committee, Clean Energy Committee, DPW, Evan, some of Dave, me, I think Carl, were attempting to rope you in. So we kind of did a back in the envelope. We realized for 200 hours of total labor from the town, that's not very much time for someone like David if you're wrapped up in more mainstream committee, business.
Do you expect to get any funding for this?
Well, that's totally what this proposal is.
No, I know, but do you expect to get any?
Personally, I think it's 50-50
Do we,
win probability.
if we don't get any funding, do we still do it?
No. Well, I can't. It's too big.
Okay.
I mean, if we all wanted to work on it, we could, but
So it's important, but it's only important if we get money for it. Okay, I understand.
it is a recommendation, it is a recommendation of some of the previous studies. Dave, I know we've had some discussion about doing lots of studies. and one of
So
the
Peter,
recommendations
when are we
was
gonna,
this.
when do you think we'll hear something on this?
They're due to the state May 4th,
Okay,
and the consultant we're working with that have done a lot of these
okay.
thinks it'd probably be more like fall,
Fall,
early
okay,
fall before
good.
it would be announced.
All right. well, we'll
I would
find out
like to
then.
make propose one other change. In the first paragraph, we say, "The ultimate beneficiaries of the project are intended to be the residents of Chelmsford, in particular, town's priority." I'd like to add the phrase "commercial and industrial businesses" after residents, so it says, "The ultimate beneficiaries of the project are intended to be the residents, commercial and industrial businesses of Chelmsford." We
That's
all benefit from it.
That's good, thank you for that.
Okay,
So if you could just email that to me, I'll add that in.
all right.
Okay.
Good. All right, well, thanks for the update. All right, good. So next on the agenda, moving right along, is use of Warren Pole Reservation for mosquito spraying. We talked about this issue at our last meeting and gave some direction to David Coons. So David and I know there was some email back and forth kind of on the whole situation. So where are we with that whole issue, David?
Well, it's completed, and,
Safely?
Yes,
Not for the mosquitoes.
Good.
the parking lot was
Closed off, yeah.
for a day.
A day? Okay.
So, this is.
Was the reservation closed or just the parking lot?
Just the parking lot.
Just the parking lot, which I thought, my suggestion was to close the entrance. But I guess that the mosquito control people needed to get access, so the entrance couldn't be closed. I did.
Were there other
raise-
people walking on the site while the work was being done?
I
didn't see
I
any?
don't know.
Oh, you weren't there then?
Probably.
I did raise the issue with Paul about looking for an alternative site, and he's certainly open to looking at alternatives. Question is, how is that process going to be?
For us to find an alternative, or mosquito control to find an alternative?
Well, I think it would be for the town to find an alternative and hopefully tell mosquito control that that's where they're gonna stage it from, instead of Warren Pole. So, the Board of Health, or at least the health director, doesn't seem to have a problem with that approach.
I mean, the Board of Health manages this project
Yeah,
for the town.
yeah.
So the Board of Health should be in the position to say another site is equal or better or worse than.
We don't know the requirements
No,
for the
right.
helicopter process, other than. they
I
meet
think we
enough
should,
based on land.
I think we should ask Paul to ask the Board of Health to find another site, give them a year's notice,
Yep.
Because they're not, I believe they don't use it again until next year at this time,
Next
correct?
year.
Right.
Yeah, it makes sense to me, Dave. I think that's kind of, I mean, I think that's what was communicated to Paul, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think we just needed to get Paul involved.
Yeah, yeah.
He could have pushed back, but he didn't.
But I mean, I
No, he
think,
didn't. He seems to be
No,
very
I said he
open to it.
could have, but he didn't.
yeah, so I think that's the right strategy, you know, working towards next year. And so, yeah, I think that's, and you've escalated it to Paul, and Paul's, seems receptive, so I think that's good.
So we'll-
Good.
I'll follow up.
Then the
with him.
motion should be to notify the mosquito control board that we will not permit them to use the Warren Pole site in the future, and that they should work with the Board of Health to secure, rather, another site. And,
Yeah, I
and,
think we
and I
should.
don't know who notifies the Board of Health, probably Paul, not us.
All right, so Dave, I think that's a motion, and Mark, you seconded the
Any
motion?
second?
All right, anybody want to talk about it before we vote? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, any opposed, unanimous, all right, good. Good, all right, moving along then. Under continual business here, anything we want to talk about, David? Continual business?
I don't have anything.
I had a couple of questions.
Yes, sir.
On Facebook, there's some talk about the walkway at the Oddfellows along the brook,
Yes.
the 30-inch as opposed to, was the 30-inch required by,
Well, the 30-inch was required to qualify for the exemption.
to qualify,
But
right?
now my understanding is now to make it handicapped accessible, it'll have to be 36 inches.
Right.
So,
How's that gonna,
we'll just have to see, you know, then it really has to become a notice of intent, which I gather will be filed.
Our trail standard is 3 feet, right? That's 36 inches.
Well,
When
actually.
when we build new trails, we want them to be 36 inches, minimum.
Yes, but in the bylaw, it's actually, I think it's 5 feet for trails on private property. That's all the bylaw says about that. I don't think it says anything about public trails, but just defaults to the state regs.
Is there a big complaint, Bill?
well, some chat on Facebook that it's not handicapped
You're lucky I missed it.
width, yeah. So I just wondered, it wouldn't qualify, it was over 30 inches for that exemption,
That's right.
right?
That's
The
right.
exemption to build it?
Right.
Right.
Remember we had the issue with
Oh, regulatory
DEP?
issue. Yeah, regulatory, in order to be able to
DEP.
have this all happen.
Had to
have it
be
come under
30
the
inches.
exemption, Yeah.
So,
But to be handicapped, 36,
Yeah.
and
It's
then,
mutually exclusive.
right.
Well, but presumably DEP understands that, you know, these things need to be ADA
Don't
accessible.
say presumably.
Well, right, one never knows.
One never
I
knows.
think it's just a matter of seeing how they react when the filing is made.
And I take, it, and it's a pretty big deal because to the extent, if it gets handicapped accessible, when they extend the trail to Summer Street, it will have to be same width, I would think. And maybe when it picks up on the other side of the center, it would be, the trouble with the other side of the center, there's some elevations there that make handicapped accessible difficult. There's no elevation problem on the Summer Street side. That's nice and flat. That would be whether it's a good enough area. I mean, it kind of starts nowhere and goes nowhere, but you certainly could do it there.
That was already approved, though, at
What?
30 inches.
I'm sorry?
That was already approved at 30 inches. Is that correct?
We didn't approve it.
That path going along the Brookway?
You mean the one he's talking about?
Oddfellows.
You had Phil,
The one he's talking about?
The-
Whatever we approved.
Right, the commission accepted the easement.
Yeah.
30 inches.
I don't think that was mentioned, the width was mentioned in the
right.
grant of easement,
I think you're right, yeah.
but.
Billy
that's
and Billy
filed.
raised a good point. There's an and Carl brought, there's an inconsistency between 30 inches, which is what the expectation was, and 36 inches to be handicapped
Right,
accessible.
Right, exactly.
All I'm saying is, if and when that trail is built from the Oddfellows all the way to Summer Street, it would lend itself to being handicapped accessible in any event because it's so flat. And it comes from a parking lot, and it might be a nice short walk for some people that can't manage a longer distance. So I would want, we don't have many specific, if any, specific handicap trails. That would be a good place for one.
Yeah, it's just a matter of being able to satisfy the performance standards for work in riverfront area.
Yeah.
If I had to guess, I would say that the state is gonna wanna see more degraded riverfront area restored than what's going to be proposed.
Okay, that's good.
We'll wait and see.
I just wanted to bring it up because there's an issue with that
Yep,
30 inches as opposed to 36. So.
yep.
Bill, anything else out there?
I just had a curious, at Walton Street, the boat ramp at Southwell Field in North Chelmsford,
Yes.
is there a reason why the state closed the boat ramp to, other than the canoes and, they put a,
Because I think it's so deteriorated.
they did, is that what it is?
You're talking about the Merrimack River, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that it's because the fire department has a concern that the ramp is in such bad shape, they wouldn't be able to get in and out of there for emergency access.
So how are they gonna get into the river?
Right. 'Cause that's the way the fire department goes in now.
They should maintain it.
Right, and I guess they had to do it in the not too distant past, and they had a hard time. So they've been asking Fish and Game to file with the commission to do what was done at Hart Pond.
Yeah,
right,
Put
right.
in a new boat ramp. I actually had a meeting out there with the fire chief and
Which worked
the
quite well,
representative.
right?
Yeah, but Fish and Game is dragging their feet.
So what,
No.
yeah.
And that's where the fire department goes in. If somebody's missing it,
Right.
and
That's
and they
where
think they're in the
the-
river.
Every year,
I don't know where they
In
keep the
full
boats
time.
now, but remember when they kept them underneath the old fire station, they drove them up to
Right.
to
Well, there was
Southwell to
one
get
in-
them in the,
There was one in the north
it
fire
was a
station.
great location to put fireboats in.
Right. I was just curious. I saw they get chained off down there now, and it says canoes and rooftop boats only.
Yeah.
It's the only place to launch in a river, isn't it?
We used to, was cement, it was a cement paveway, went
Yeah,
right
it's
into
a
the
cement
water.
ramp.
Yeah, but it's the
Yeah.
only place to launch.
Yes,
Certainly
yes,
in
yeah,
Chelmsford.
yeah.
Right, right.
But I
In
mean, it's-
Chelmsford,
maybe
yeah.
in Tingsboro or something.
but-
I didn't know if it
Yeah,
was
you'd have to leave
something,
the town.
I didn't know who would, got the ball rolling as far as having it closed. Was it the town, or was it the Fish and Game, or?
Part of the fire
I don't know for
department.
sure, but I think it's probably Fish and Game. Because since it's their access, it's really their responsibility to,
But I would think from a safety standpoint, we would not need access, which I'm sure they can cut the chain and put their boat in if they have to, but.
yeah, and I know that the fire chief has been pressuring Fish and Game, hey, get with it,
Right.
come up with a design and file with the commission, but Fish and Game just hasn't done it yet.
So
Maybe
Fish
it's a
and
ma-
Game is responsible for it, not Chelmsford?
For the
Correct.
ramp itself?
Wow.
Yeah, no, Fish.
Because it's the Merrimack River.
That's right, yeah, just like a great pond.
Yeah.
That it's, the state has the responsibility
hold
for
your breath.
providing access. So maybe it's a matter of maybe putting some political pressure on Fish and Game coming from the select board to, get
Select board,
them.
yes, select board.
we have
So we
anybody
get a
from
hold
the
of
select
Mr.
board yet?
Elliott.
Because a lot of people use that ramp. A lot of people use that.
Over the years, the
have
public's
used it.
used that
Yeah,
ramp.
public
That's
have
right.
used
Yeah.
that to put their boats in.
It's the only place you can get a big boat into the river.
Right.
And-
And there's parking there too
Yeah.
for it.
Police use it too, don't they?
Huh?
There is
Police?
is there
Yeah.
a police boat?
Yeah,
taking
yeah,
notes.
Police boat.
I don't know where they keep it, down here?
But there is a real concern about, the fire department and other first responders being able to get in there if there's an
Right,
emergency.
I'd like to see it put back the way it was and
But in good shape.
in good
Yeah.
shape. Yeah, I looked at it today. It's crumbly and, it's not the
Is it
best.
dangerous?
It's not the best
Getting-
ramp.
It's getting there.
It's getting there.
It's very, very, very difficult to use.
Right, right.
All right,
2 for 2, Billy, keep going.
The only other thing was the granite sign. Are we okay
We
to
would
go
get-
ahead with that, or,
Yeah, yeah.
okay.
Will they get the
Do
dimensions?
we have a final quote, or?
It was in that ballpark of 52,
So
maybe,
place it-
it may be a little less, but
Good.
Place the
Okay.
it's
PO.
in that
In
range,
about
50.
8 weeks or 8 months?
They said in June.
It's amazing.
They can't do the rock,
June of what year?
they can't etch the rock for the
Yes, we
community
get it.
preservation, so we'd have to come up with some kind of
Brass block.
brass plaque that we
Yeah,
can,
Carol and I were talking, I don't think CPC should have a problem with a brass plaque.
I asked, and they didn't have any trouble.
okay. so.
Good, anything else?
That was
Bill?
it.
So-
All right.
That's it.
So, yeah, David, so if you can get a PO placed with LeMaisonry, use the 5,200 as the price for the granite sign installed.
And no deposits authorized.
Right.
No deposits.
Okay, we may need something from them. We may need a proposal or.
Okay, I'll get something from
If you
Sure.
could get that.
Have it on a napkin.
Yeah.
Right.
And so there's still 2,900 left over from when Garside was gonna do it. So I guess it's a matter of coming up with another 2,300, which I think Paul said, don't worry about it, I'll find the
Yes.
money, just
He
get the
always
sign
says
in.
that.
Okay.
That's funny, because the money that Garside has will probably pay the lawyer's bills to collect the money that Garside has.
Are they still in business, Garside?
Yeah.
All right, moving right along, land management, update,
So,
Carl.
so the only other thing on Warren Pole, we talked about the mosquito, we talked about the granite sign, is that the CR, we just informed Mr. Alphin, our attorney, to cycle it one more time with the land trust and their lawyer. Hopefully, we'll get it submitted at that point and move forward. Sort of in the same general area, so first thing is, Earth Day was last Saturday.
Yes.
And I know Peter was there with, you were with the Sustainability Energy,
Yeah,
but we should really think about having a table there next year, and I'm happy to, I'm sure Peter will bounce between tables, but it was a decent turnout. It wasn't the best day, but it wasn't a bad day, and it was right at the library. And there were probably a dozen tables, maybe 8 or 10 tables, something like that. So it was a good thing.
I saw a lot of people out in the community picking up trash and stuff like that, which was great.
Did SVT have a table by any chance, did you notice? Because
I did not see them there, and I would have noticed them now.
Because their development director had asked me a couple of months ago if I knew of any events in Chelmsford where they could put up a table, but
Yeah.
I didn't know about Earth Day.
Certainly, 4th of July is a big deal.
Oh,
They
okay.
should think about that. For Chelmsford, that's our biggest, I think, that and Christmas. But I would say 4th of July.
July 3rd, the night before, they have,
It's right in the
at the
center.
Common, they have the street that's closed off.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
They
like
have
80 bucks a
booths and
space.
different-
They gotta pay for their space.
Yeah.
No freebies over there.
You
Nothing's
mean for
free.
tables?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
All right, good. Anything else, Carl?
So, next week's working session, Peter and I are gonna be doing a little work
Oh, that's
this
right,
week.
Tuesday. Yeah, we're back
So
here
we-
Tuesday.
Back here next week.
What time is that? 7?
It's normal time. Hopefully, we'll get through this in an hour to 2 hours. No other hearing issues or anything like that, just focused on going through.
Gonna be
This is-
posted?
This is for the Master Plan Implementation Committee, which if you guys remember, we voted Chris Tamula to join that, and he declined.
Can you imagine
So-
that?
But we're on the hook I'm on the hook to do an update on natural resources, of which we're a part of that. We will also talk some about the open space and rec plan as well, but I want to focus mostly on the fact that I have to do an update on the natural resources part, so that's some overlap. But we'll have a discussion about that. And then the last thing is May 6th, that following Saturday, we have our monthly site walk, and we'll go to Russell Mill at 9 o'clock.
Good.
It just occurred to me, we're right in the neighborhood of Chelmsford Lumber. I don't know if we want to, we were talking about doing a site walk there.
Yeah, we could
It's
swing by and take a look.
It's almost walking distance.
Yeah.
So anyway, if we want to do that, but we'd have to organize that with,
You'll have to notify.
Well, you'd want to give them a courtesy
Yeah.
heads up beforehand. You wouldn't want to just
Yeah.
show up with 7 commissioners,
yeah.
It could cause,
So if that works, if we think
Consternation.
that makes sense, if you want to let them know.
Well, yes, if you could let me know
Yeah.
whether that's where.
Do you guys want to do that? Does that make sense?
I think it would be good to at least have a few representatives go over there, you know?
We could do
Take a look
that
around.
first, right at 9 o'clock, and then once, half an hour or so there, and then meet at Russell Mill at 9:30?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because I don't think it'd take more than 15 minutes at the
You'd be able
lumber
to
yard,
see
right?
what you
there's
see pretty quick.
not much to see, actually.
Yeah.
Well, there is. Like,
Well, there
you-
is.
You brought up the good thing about the stormwater runoff.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
But it's not a very big
You
area.
can see it very quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay, I'll
And
I'll
even,
let
it's
them
still
know.
eroding now.
Yes, yeah.
And there's no real access issue. We can just drive right in. It's the parking area
Right.
for the lumber.
Almost like a drive-by.
Just don't pick up 2x4s on your way out.
Yeah.
And just don't interfere with their loading and unloading.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, so why don't we plan that?
What, 9 o'clock at,
Why don't we do 9 o'clock at the lumberyard?
and May what?
Sixth. May 6th, Saturday, May 6th.
Okay, I'll let them know first thing
Like a
tomorrow.
walk that
Okay.
morning.
And that's all I got.
It's getting harder. It is.
I have a question. What's our rule on golfing on our conservation land? Practice swings? Is there any?
It's passive recreation.
That question's never really come up,
No,
right?
no.
Whereabouts?
I was dodging random golf balls flying through the air at Russell Mill last week.
On the soccer fields?
Yeah, but they were whacking them just off the field in the end zone where the goalposts are. So I don't think they were chewing up the field, but let's just say the balls weren't going very straight.
They usually aren't.
It wasn't me.
It was like it was
It wasn't me.
I got flashbacks.
I
that
don't
were
think,
painful.
I don't think people should drive golf balls if there's other people walking around.
But are there any rules?
No,
That we know
because
of.
it's never been a problem.
It's never been a problem.
But you can certainly make some rules.
They have that problem on the river and the Lowell side across from the Sampson.
Right.
They have signs up there, and people still do it.
Yeah.
You know where the carnival sets up
Yep.
there?
Oh, yeah, I see them out there all the time golfing.
Right now.
And they're right next to the signs all the time doing it,
Right.
too.
Yeah, right next to the sign that says no
Next to the
golf.
sign, they're like, whacking away, you know.
I don't know.
Well, you
I don't-
know, if
All
it's,
right,
like,
not a
let's
big deal.
see if it becomes a problem.
I'm
So-
not,
so
I'm
you-
not into putting in signs. I hate signs.
Yeah,
I don't want to see any more signs.
that's the soccer field, and they're like maniacal about their fields. I'd be surprised
Well,
if they
They
allow
are
it.
very
If it-
serious about
In
their
that case, it
fields.
would need 2 approvals. It needs Soccer Association approval
They would never
first.
approve it, I don't think.
On the other hand, we could allow them to drive balls into Mill Pond. From the parking lot.
Where the turtles are habitating?
No, there aren't any turtles there.
And the geese
Oh,
will
yeah,
swallow
the
them.
And the beavers.
There's
All
tons
right.
of turtles.
All right, anything else that we're,
That's,
land management? Yes?
Just that one thing, any luck with that, fuel company up on 110?
I've sent them a letter.
No
Did you
response?
find them?
Not yet, but it wasn't that
Did
long
you
ago.
find them?
Oh,
What's that?
You find them?
No, I sent them a letter
To
asking.
that street address?
Yes, that's,
Because I don't, nobody seems to know who they are, right?
well, that's where their address is
You want
listed,
something,
so
John?
just, I could send them a letter letting them know that there's a concern, and they
Good.
should give me a call.
there's a container
I'm sorry?
on that site, I think.
The oil trucks.
No, past the Enterprise Bank. I think they dropped a container or something in there.
Oh, really?
Oh, Enterprise, you're at the other one.
Yeah, the other site.
Oh,
Oh,
You mean across from Enterprise?
the one that's on the
The
Beaver
one we're
Brook.
looking at now?
Yeah, I think there's somebody approached me at Earth Day asking about it.
really?
Oh, the one, it's kind of like in the wetlands?
Yeah,
Yeah, that one.
the
Really?
one where they went in and,
We've-
Beaver Brook
We
side.
knew we were gonna have trouble with that guy, right?
Yeah, he was gonna do some engineering for
Oh,
us.
right.
yeah, he was gonna have it delineated.
I thought people were out there already doing that.
Yeah, the wetlands have been delineated. His consultant went on vacation for 2 weeks.
He's due back in front of us, right?
Yes, yeah.
Oh, he's coming back. That's coming
Well, I'm
back.
just saying.
Well,
I
let's go
thought I-
take- just
I
go
thought
take
I
a-
saw a container
Take a picture
out
of
of
the
the corner of
container.
my eye.
Well, I'm going to be doing a site visit with the consultant, and I'll definitely look for that.
Yeah, it sounds like you won't miss it.
So,
Just still
okay,
plugging
thanks
away
for
in
the
the-
heads up.
On the oil company, though.
Yes, yeah, I will
All right,
cool.
definitely pester them.
All right, well, Peter, what else in here?
How's our culvert replacement project? They did the one on North Road.
Yeah, they were only 8 hours late. But it worked.
That's the only one they've done.
I'm not, is it, I don't know.
Now, I just found out within the last couple of days that the Water District will be coming, filing with the commission to replace their culvert on Watershed Lane.
Yep.
So that's going to be the whole 9 yards.
What was
with-
going on with them in the center? They shut down water for at least half the day. All the little businesses were out of business. Where the washing place is, across from where Feeney's used to be, that street, what's the name of that side street?
Wilson?
Wilson.
Oh, right out here.
The Water District had the street all dug up, and I went in to pick up my shirts, and she was out of business. She said, I can't wash anything. They shut my water off for at least half the day, she said.
Was it a broken main? that went there?
She didn't know.
All right, do we have a motion to adjourn?
I was just gonna add, although we
We don't know
touched
what to
on it
do with it,
already,
so-
that the new boat ramp at Hart Pond has been installed.
Excellent.
Looks good.
That looks
Yeah,
good.
DPW did its usual great job.
They did.
Good.
Did you
Yeah,
meet
the-
Sylvia?
I met her today,
Good.
yes, so we had a good conversation.
Delightful lady.
Yep. I guess people are less than impressed with the wetland replication area,
Oh, really?
but it'll look better
Speaking of Facebook comments,
as time goes on.
All right.
Did they find their
That's
dock,
all right.
the old dock?
they did.
The old dock, oh,
Did
Yeah.
it drift away, or did somebody
Yeah,
swipe it?
I think it drifted or, yeah.
Like,
Well,
had
we
some
said
help.
there
We
was no
would double,
wetland
would we double
replication.
the, was it one of those double or triple the area, the wetland replication? Or was it one for one?
it was one for
One
one.
for one.
Yeah, it was no big deal, right?
No,
Wasn't a lot.
no.
That wasn't a lot.
Uh,
All right.
I think it'll
I
come
think-
out very well.
It'll be fine. It'll be fine.
All right, well, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Moved by Dave, seconded by Mark. All those in favor?
Aye, aye.
Motion is approved. Good night, everyone. Thank you for a good meeting.
I miss